Welcome to the Harnessing Your Divine Feminine show, hosted by Andrea Bagby. We believe that when you give a woman an opportunity, you give her the world. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our videos.
Hello, welcome to Harnessing Your Divine Feminine, the show where we give women opportunities to share their stories, their wisdom, their laughter, and their love. Today we are talking to Carlas Renee.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you. Okay, so, you have a wealth of information to give people. Just your journey, your story. Every time I talk to you, there's a new story and a new journey that you're triumphing. You're like climbing the mountain all the time.
Right.
Like new mountains, okay?
Right, yeah.
So, what is it? Like, tell us about you, where you came from, what you do, how you fell into this crazy, like, HYDF world, this metaphysics.
Right. So, thank you, first of all, because I do feel like my advisor's constantly telling me, can we take it one thing at a time? It's like you have to have 5 different major things going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, Renee, Carlos, tackle one thing at a time. But I'm literally trying to just be receptive and obedient and everything that comes to me. It may seem like a lot, but I'm learning, and I realize now I'm a very strong person.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't believe in that before. But life is revealing me to myself during this time. So a lot of stuff is coming up, and I feel like this past year I've been on a fast track to my destiny and to healing and everything. And it all started last year, and that's how I met you. Was that a year? Oh no, that was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago,
yeah,
right?
It was 2 years ago.
It's been a fun 2 years, though, having you in my life. It has.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you. Same here. And it's funny, when we first met, that year that we first met at the retreat, I didn't even know you. I hadn't met you, and I had just started seeing a healer. And the thing is I've done therapy before,
Mm-hmm.
and it always seemed to go so slow, and I always felt like they were just scratching the surface of what was really going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was on all of these different medications, about 6 different medications for depression, anxiety, insomnia, oh my gosh, just so many things. So I was taking medicine to go to sleep, taking medicine to wake up, taking medicine to cope. My whole life was numb, and at the point, because of where I was, I had numbed everything in my life because I couldn't bear it. Life just became too much for me.
Right.
It was like everything from all of my experiences was coming full circle,
Mm-hmm.
and it was swelling me up with, and honestly, and none of this is planned. I'm just going to talk and allow Spirit to flow
Absolutely,
through
we want to
me,
hear
because
it.
some things may come out that I didn't even expect to come out. So I'm just going to let it go, though.
Do it.
But so going through that process, I got to a point in my life where I was just fed up, and I got a diagnosis, what we were just talking about with the thyroid. I had gained I'm 4'11", and I was weighing 175 pounds. And my hair was falling out left and right. I mean, I would be in the shower and I could just feel it popping out.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who knows me knows that I've always been really big about, I just had a thing for my hair. I don't know what that is. My mom doesn't. Now my
energy.
son. It's energy?
Yeah, hair carries a lot of energy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always had, just been very particular about it. So at one point I looked up and I was just and I wasn't going outside. I wasn't doing things that I used to do. I love to write. I wasn't doing anything but surviving day to day. And up until that point, there were times where, I know I went a year without even just not really getting out of the bed. It was awful. So I got to a point, I remember writing in my journal, and I was just I feel something big is coming, something different. Didn't know what it was. Had never heard of a healer, but I knew I wanted therapy. I was okay, I have to get my life on track. When I got that diagnosis, because I just saw it's I got a glimpse into how my life would end up if I kept on that pattern of unhealthiness. And so I switched my diet up and went plant-based. That was major. And it just really lifted my spirits.
Right. Always. That is a key, right?
It is so key.
Food is
so
such
key.
medicine.
It's medicine. And I didn't realize that spirit was preparing me for the healing that was about to come. And you know, when you start doing this work, you know that the vessel needs to be clear. It needs to be light. It needs to, because you're able to download more, you're able to receive more. So it's like, I didn't understand any of that, didn't know any of it. And I knew also that I wanted to get off. I no longer wanted to be so dependent on medication. Something just kept telling me, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Like, I'm not supposed to be dependent on this to survive. And so even the way that I found my healer, I had never heard of a healer, didn't know what it was, but I picked up a Inner Space magazine at a restaurant.
Okay.
Just wasting time looking through it. And it took me like 2 weeks to actually, was sitting on my dining room table. It took me like 2 weeks to actually look in it and go through it. And when I did, I just saw an ad for this one person, and I was like, okay, I'll try it. And as soon as we talked, our first conversation, she read me like that. She's like, victim, martyr, savior. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's like, I know now that she opened me up. She opened me up to everything that was already there.
But that moment didn't feel good, did it?
I was relieved.
Okay, good.
I was relieved that somebody that I like, there was a comfort, like, oh,
it got to the root of it.
Yeah,
that's what I felt like with therapy.
Right.
Now, I think therapy is good for specific issues, like specifically grief. I think therapy is great for grief, but like sometimes you just want to get to the root of it.
And that's what I needed. Like therapists used to talk to me, and I used to literally be in my head saying this stuff, and I'm like, I know that. I don't need you. Like there's a movie, As Good as It Gets, with Jack Nicholson, and he was like, you're describing, I'm drowning, and you're just describing the water, and that's how it felt.
Because
it's just like, okay, but what is at the root of this stuff? Where is it coming from? And so, and doctors, listen, medication, mental health is real. Medication, I recommend it to get you from A to B, but all of the doctors I have ever had always said, oh yes, you're going to need this for the rest of your life. And to me, I just used to say, well, what's the point then of therapy? What's the point? And how can you tell someone you need this for the rest of your life? And I don't take any of it now, and I don't require it, but it's just like you get adapted into that. So I do feel like especially if you're suffering from extreme depression, sometimes medication is good to help you come out of that.
Right.
However, I feel like it's there to help us to get to where we can help ourselves.
Right, we use all the tools. We use all the things. All the things.
We draw all things needful. Everything, our spirit draws to us the things that we need. See, all of these things I can talk about now because I've lived them and experienced them, and I can look back hindsight and say, oh, that's what that was. Oh, and I see how beneficial and necessary that dark part of my life was. I see why it was there, why it's necessary. Because I'm going to be, there's so, like, I was made to feel ashamed and embarrassed and everything because I was dealing with that, but it's so universal.
Oh, right. It is. Mental health is real.
Yes.
And I've had to learn to manage my symptoms and not identify with them.
Right.
I tell women that every day. Manage the symptoms, but don't identify them as you.
Exactly.
Right.
No, that is not you. This is just a part. And that's where I feel like this phase of my life is being observing everything, not responding necessarily, but just observing. Like if there's some darkness, to go, oh, I feel bad. Oh, okay. Where's that coming from? Not panic. I used to panic like, oh my gosh, I don't feel good. Like you know what I mean? And it's like not coming from a place of trying to make it stop, because it's just an alert to something that's a little off somewhere that you need attention to.
Right.
The depression, the sadness, or what? Yeah. Overwhelmed. Easy.
Right.
So, didn't mean to get off on a tangent on that, but I really needed to do that mental health thing, because that's major. And I was at a point before I started my healing of writing a book on mental health because of so many stigmas around it, especially in the Black community. Like, you just do not talk about that. What happens in your home stays in the home. It's a sign of weakness.
Wow.
Or something's wrong with you. Like, it's when people in my family found out about my different stuff, like, I was made fun of. Like, it's just like, and they just throw stuff out, like words out, like it's, it's like people die over this stuff. Like, this
absolutely
is a chemical, and this is so
absolutely
real,
that's unnecessary.
So you definitely need people in your life who's going to support you and be understanding. But I just want people to know you have to first give that to yourself, because you're not going to always get that from everybody. Even the people you expected from the most are going to be some of the people that use that against you, hold it over your head. I mean, I have stories over that with people, in my daily life who made me feel ashamed about it. So like it was something I can control or something. So yeah. So when I started seeing her, I saw her like once a week, and we just go at it. And she always said, like, our first conversation, she asked me about my mom. That's always been a volatile relationship. And she was asking me questions about her, and she was like, well, why do you feel like, it's like this? And I said, I don't know. I think I carry some of her shame or something, I said. And she's like, wow, Renee, do you know that it takes people like a year to get to what you just got to? And that's how it was with her. Everything, all she had to do was throw something out, and I attached to it and come bring it out just like that. Yeah, it was really quick. So, and I saw her for about 3 months, and I was just like, oh my gosh, my life was just so different. I was able to identify my fantasy world. She kept saying, like, you need to stop living in this fantasy. And I'm like, what is the fantasy? I'm here getting help. I'm doing
right.
Yeah, I don't understand. I didn't understand what fantasy world was. Because I thought I was being true to myself and being real and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And one day I was on it's like I had a vision, and then it was a gut punch, because the reality of my life was shown to me.
Wow.
I was at a doctor's appointment with my aunt and walking, and it came to me, and I was like, I couldn't breathe. And I was like, what's happening? What's going on? Everything, all the relationships in my life, that the truth and reality of them appeared to me, and it all made sense. You know what I mean? And it's like, wow, this is what she meant by fantasy. So then I had to go through a process of forgiving, letting go, and everything. But I think that's why in the beginning of anyone's healing journey, the first thing you must and have to be is aware. You have to be aware of yourself. You have to be aware
and ready
for the awareness. But if you can't be ready if you're not aware. Right. And you can't, it's like you can't do one without the other.
Right.
So, and then I started receiving messages, and it's like, I guess this was happening all the time. I just was not aware.
Right.
I was not aware.
And that's amazing. That takes courage to walk in for that first healing session.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you probably sat in the car?
Yeah.
And went, what am I doing?
Right. Yeah. I was like, and then everything became, well, Diana said this. Oh, and Diana said that. And I mean, she was calling me on stuff, like making me face myself, having to get over myself. Something as simple as one day she was telling me about, I was telling her about how I have 3 men in my house, my son and my husband had 2 boys. And my youngest was going through this thing of walking around the house with his shirt off. To me, that's just inappropriate. Like, you say that, put that in your room. I don't need to see your chest. Like, you're a young man now. You know what I mean? Like, and they just thought it was like the biggest thing. Like, and my husband was like, why are you making a big deal about that? And I was just like, I just think it's uncouth. It's inappropriate. Classy. Yeah, it's just so. Right. And so she was like, why are you doing that? That's your stuff, not theirs. And I was just like, no, I'm teaching. And she's like, no, you're forcing yourself onto them. Something as simple as that. I had been in an uproar. Then I became the victim. I'm like, because everybody started getting in on me, the boys and my husband's like, don't make a big deal, and I was just like, you guys, I don't have a voice in this house. I can never say what I want. You guys always attack me, blah, blah, blah. And it was a cycle within myself that I kept doing victim, martyr, savior.
Right.
And so I started receiving messages, and that's how I found you.
Okay.
Because like one day an owl was, I've never seen an owl before like that, sitting, and I just started loving nature. And I was sitting outside one time, and its owl came up and was just sitting there. I was like, oh my gosh. So I tell her, and she's like, from now on, look up this significance, spiritual significance of everything. I'm like, okay. And I started that, and I was led to one thing to the next, to the next.
Right.
And so I had been receiving messages on the divine feminine, messages through animals, and I'd look it up, and it'd talk about the divine feminine, and I'd be like, what is that? Okay, whatever. And it kept coming. And then one day I was going through the Inner Space magazine again, and I saw the ad for the divine feminine, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is real.
Right.
This stuff is happening, blah, blah, blah. I did not know anything about metaphysical, about crystals, about any of this. I used to look at people who would, use crystals like, okay, weirdo.
Right. Like that weird stigma we get, right?
Right. And mind you, this is something that life is something that, especially in the Black community, you're just raised to, that's evil. You don't do that. I was raised Christian, and crystals, anything outside of what, like, it's Christian and God and everything is demonic, it's evil, you stay away from it. So that was a huge thing. Diana used to always tell me, you're going to have to let go of everything you've been taught. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? Now, mind you, I've always been religious, and now I know, but it's like I reached a point where I needed more.
Well, you let go of the ego.
And I'm still battling that. We're still fighting. And it'll never be gone completely, but light has taken out more of my body than ego, thankfully. But that's what she used to say. And I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about. And I just could not, I did think I was betraying God somehow by using crystals. My husband went through the house anointing all the doors with oil and praying. He's like, you're bringing the devil into the house and stuff. So this is also something that I was experiencing on my own. And I know now the spiritual process, that's a journey we take alone.
Right.
The first part,
exactly.
So, but that's how I was led to your retreat.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about you. And so,
then it's like more crazy.
Right.
Like,
no. But I mean, it was open. I felt comfortable. I felt understood. I felt, it's just like the universe opened up to me. I learned how to identify trauma, pain, whatever I was holding, release it and let it go. Meditation, journaling, exercising, all of those were key in this journey. So that was 2 years ago. And when I went to the retreat, I kind of felt like, oh, what am I doing here? Because I felt everybody there knew way more than
everybody thinks that.
But you guys were using terms literally, like talking about things so casually. And I'm just like, what does that mean? What is spirit? Like, why are you saying that? I felt like, man, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe this isn't for me. Like, maybe I'm out of my league. But now, obviously, all of that has dissipated and everything.
We pulled you in though. We were like, have a seat, have some cake.
You did. You pulled me in, you guys. You pulled me in. And while I was there, Spirit told me, you're going to be speaking here next year. And after we left, we left abruptly. I didn't think so. I didn't even think about that anymore until like the year later, and it just popped up in my head, and I was like, oh, let me contact Andrea. And then it went from there. And the last retreat, like last year, I didn't know. I mean, I arrived,
Mhm.
I came,
Mhm.
but I did not know. Because this was still, listen, all I thought I was supposed to do when I first dedicated my life in 2001 to God, I said, I want to do something to, bring people to God. So I'm going to write inspirational plays of my life and inspire people, and that was before Tyler Perry, all of that. But that's what all I want to do. And all this time, I've always said, I'm just going to write a book. I thought that's all I was supposed to be doing. I thought this was preparing me to write a book. But now I know it's much bigger than anything I could have ever imagined.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I had to let go of a lot of people that have been a part of my life for a long time, relationships, even my father, he's, oh man, yeah.
You were just talking about him in the hallway. The story.
So,
yeah.
Even with my dad, he's always been my best friend, my everything. And I had to come into an understanding. It's like I had to let go of my child view of him and accept him as the adult. And there was a lot of stuff that I haven't dealt with that I was suppressing from childhood from him,
of course,
that I did not know.
Yeah.
So the relationship never felt authentic. And man, and it's like now he's been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And it's like, even through this process, I thought I would be a nervous wreck. But literally, I was dreaming about this 2 years ago.
Wow.
And in those moments, I would cry. I would think, oh, why am I thinking these bad thoughts, and I would literally mourn then. So now there's nothing. All I can do, like, I literally saw myself at the funeral speaking and everything. So it's like, now that it's here, all I can do is just be here with love. There's no emotion at all. There's no sadness. And I want it to be there.
Well, that's no ego. So you did it. You transmuted it. Now it's like objective. It's love. It's good.
So that's what
it is. That's unconditional love. Is if you're not exerting, you're not putting an opinion on him anymore. Right. That's what ego is. We think we have to put an opinion on everyone, and we should not at all. In fact, we just hold space and be present.
Right.
Because his journey's his journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So during the process, once I started healing, and I'm probably all over the place, but I'm just letting it flow. So once I started healing, that's when, and at the retreat, people would say things to me. Like Scarlett mentioned, when I was coming upstairs, she's like, oh, there's so much energy in here, and I know you can feel it. And she's like, she said I was psychic, and I was just like, okay, no.
Right. We tend to be lots of energy, big energy women.
Right.
And a lot of women are like, why is she telling me this? Right. And then like later down the road, people realize, oh yeah, y'all told me that.
Right. Yeah. And it is. But it's like when in healing something so small, it could be, you've been holding on to a bad event when you were a little kid. It doesn't have to be traumatic to the point. Everybody's trauma is different, and everybody's pain is different. But when it comes up, like some things, it would take me 2 weeks, even a month, before I can approach it, because the pain, it was so painful. But once I went to approach it and release it, I acknowledge it, release it to the universe and let it go, you literally ascend that much more. Every little bit that you release and let go, it's you ascend that much more. And then the vision started. So once I was completely open up, I was also open to myself. I was open up to my gifts as well. Things that had already existed. And I didn't realize I was an empath. These are a lot of my gifts that started coming to my awareness have been with me always. I just thought it was normal.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Like being able to read people's energy and everything. I just thought everybody could do that.
Right.
And so like all of these things and, knowing things or whatever, you just thought, okay, that's what, So, it was the healing that allowed me to get to there.
Yes.
And even, you know, when I spoke at the retreat, I'm thinking, oh, I'm doing something great. I told my story about how I got there, and I was thinking, and my guides told me, because you did this, you released so many blessings in your future. So I was expecting it to all come, you know,
like
come
all
flowing in.
like it's a transaction.
Yeah.
And it's not, right?
I didn't mean to treat it like that.
People, because that's how we're programmed.
Yeah. We're thinking, and that's what I'm still getting used to. Time does not exist in the spirit world.
No.
So things could come to you, but it doesn't, you know, we process things in time, not spirit. And so they're bringing you stuff, but you don't know when it's going to happen. Just trust.
Right. It's always like when you don't expect it.
It's always, always, always when you don't expect it.
Right.
The divine timing. Oh my gosh, it's so major. But yeah, so I went through the whole process. So we spoke at the retreat, and I'm just like, yes, I overcome my fears, because one of the big things Spirit told me is you're going to have to get over your fear of being seen. Now, people, I'm an introvert, okay? Like, I'm an extrovert because I love people. When I'm around them, my energy just turns on, depending on the energy. But I'm also a very private person, and I like being, like, I don't like to give away a lot. You know what I mean?
It's vulnerability.
Yes, vulnerable.
Vulnerability,
That's the thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I can't be vulnerable with others so I can do it myself.
Right.
So it's like, it's literally every step of the way, you know, when a judgment comes up with me or with someone else, I'm reminded you carry this judgment within yourself.
That's very true. Whenever you judge someone, you do carry it within yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, people don't like to hear that.
So, yeah, but I mean, it was like sobering to the point where I had to stop. I remember being in a grocery store one day and, you know, looking at my phone, and Spirit told me, like, look at the person who's serving you. And I looked, and what regulars look into their eyes. See yourself in that person.
Right.
And so I smiled at the person, and I was personable with the person. I acknowledged the person. Any other time, I probably would have just gone, like, it would have been a transaction, exchange. But it's like slowing me down to really appreciate this experience and everyone. And in appreciating everyone, I'm appreciating myself, but literally it's like I'm going through the process of, I've been through, these cycles of literally a process of getting to know me, mm-hmm. and accepting me and appreciating me, because I lost myself. After I got married and had kids, I completely lost myself. And I was so far removed from the person that I was before.
Right.
Yeah, I was dead. Mm-hmm. Like, I died, and this is my rebirth, mm-hmm. literally. And so you know, I get back home. I'm sorry to keep going back and forth.
That's okay.
I get back home from the retreat. I just had to tell you this. Get back home from the retreat, and I'm, you know, when you go to these retreats, there's an energy.
You're high.
You're high. You're high. Mm-hmm. And so I was still floating on that when I came back home, and everything was so clear to me. And it's like, I realized after a couple of weeks that basically I just opened myself up to more healing that needed to be done.
Right. It just starts. Like, the healing just starts. Yes. Like, you go to the retreat and you think, oh, I did all this healing work. And then you come and you're like, oh, I did like one step.
Yes. I'm like, but wait, yeah. I did this. I told my story. I did. And it's like, okay.
But you did great telling your story. I felt like it helped a lot of women.
Yeah, I hope so. But the thing is that I thought at that point it would be smooth sailing after that.
Right. You were like,
it's like, yeah.
And
it's like
the spirit was like, no, it's just more things. I got to tell you, I've been doing retreats for years and events and giving women platforms to speak. Mm-hmm. And I know the process. I watch you go through, and you all go through the same process. You're like, unless you've done it a few times, and then you're a veteran, and you're just like, yeah, bring it, let's do it. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching you be a first-time speaker, and I'm thinking, first I was like, is she going to show up? Which legit happens. Like, I get it, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm watching you. That morning, you were going to speak. You were like literally shaking. Yeah. You were walking around. Yeah. Hey, Andrea. Yeah. I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to try. Okay. And I was like, is she going to do this? Are we going to have to fill in? But you did it when it came time.
Yeah.
I think you took a nap first. You like told me, you were like, I'm going to go lay down now.
I did.
And I was like, woo, girl, this has some anxiety.
Whoa.
But you worked through that. You busted through that resistance.
I did. Like, the crazy thing is like, I'm used to speaking in front of people. I used to do that for my job. So it wasn't
not your job. It's your story.
And that's the key word, is my story.
Right.
I reveal things in that setting that people who know me don't even know. Do
right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that was major.
And watching you go through that and have the courage, and you put your ego aside. That was amazing. I watched you like have a breakdown.
Yeah.
Put your ego aside. And you stood up and did it.
Yeah.
And many women, and have before,
mm-hmm.
have been like, I'm sorry, Andrea, I can't do this. And
really?
then I just stick someone else in. Right?
Wow.
That's the nature of, events. And so, but you did it.
Mm-hmm.
You fought through the resistance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That first step is the hardest, right?
It is. And I feel like after that now is like, okay, it's still a coming together process. And and that's when I came home and really started focusing on self-love,
mm-hmm.
because it's like sort of the end of the process towards completion. And so the healer's journey, man, the hero's journey, they're all the same.
Right.
It's like you go through all of this and it's all transforming the whole time you're going through it. And when we're on the process and the path, you don't see all of the work you're doing, not for yourself only, but for those who came
mm-hmm.
before you and those who will come
right.
after. But you're healing. There was so much clearing that needed to be done on both sides of my family generationally that I was carrying that I had no idea. To the point where I'm like, struggling with things like addiction and, something as simple as overeating.
Right.
Something as simple. Okay, so in the beginning, and I'm just going to be very real here. In the beginning, that's how I don't want to say that because I don't want people to think that you should do that. But listen, I after years and years of taking medication, I started taking herbal refreshments like marijuana.
Right.
So, and listen.
Herbal refreshments.
Yes, I call it herbal refreshments.
I've never heard it called. That's awesome. I'm going to say that next time.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any refreshments?
I used to tell my husband, listen, I need my herbal refreshments or just get away from me. Yeah. So, because it didn't sound so bad, right? So, but I mean, listen, it's from the earth, it's natural. But
right.
It did wonders for me that medicine could not. And that's how it helped with sleep, anxiety, and focus, everything I needed help with, it helped. So all these medications just fell by the wayside. And, when you're on that journey, everything that is no longer for you, it falls from you, whether you want it to or not. As long as you don't stop and you keep going and you keep releasing.
It does fall. It's naturally,
right?
It naturally falls
away.
Yeah, that's happened to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it got to be to where I started doing it more and more and more. I would do it when I woke up in the morning. I'd do it, I'd do it in the morning. I'd do it before I went to bed at night. Then that started being like during the day. And I'm like, okay, am I becoming a weed? So all of that started to happen. And then I started getting a lot of messages from spirit saying I needed to get rid of,
you grow out of it.
You grow out of it.
Yeah.
Like I haven't smoked in a year. I don't even have the need to. I do take a gummy every now and then. But it's like I'm very susceptible to addiction. And it's really heavy on my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
So, but it's like the one major thing that I struggled with the most, once I released it,
mm-hmm.
I ascended more, but I also released it from myself and my ancestors so that they no longer have to deal with it as well. So look, all of this healing is bringing me into, I was talking to somebody the other day and we were having a deep conversation and they were like, well, yeah, people in the new age, thinking blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't like that word new age because I feel like this is wisdom that has been around. This has been around since the beginning of time.
It really has.
This is us.
Mm-hmm.
It's just us coming into understanding and knowing of who we are, ourselves. Like it's the whole healing process is a remembrance of self. That's all it is. And so, you know, when we're born and we're programmed and we take on all of these things as our identity, as this persona we create. So the thing is, we do that unknowingly. We do it, we accept it, we adapt it. Some of us never wake up to reality, wake up to truth. And we go along carrying this persona and try and killing ourselves to give life to this persona, to give, you know, to validate this persona and everything. But it's like, eventually there's going to come a time in your life, whether something traumatic happens in your life, some life altering something that's going to happen in your life that breaks you down to yourself.
Absolutely. It breaks down the ego. Yeah. The ego's out the window.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, we all have these moments, and this was my moment. So it was mental health. I survived, you know, I went through a period of, you know, toxic relationship, abusive relationship, that killed my spirit as well. So this is me. I'm being empowered from that. I'm being empowered from, those are a lot of deaths that I had to die.
Oh, they're deaths. They feel like deaths, don't they? They fall off.
Right. So this last one though, you know, and it's still shedding from me, and I don't know how I don't really want to speak on it because I don't know what the end effect will look like. But at this point, it's like I'm willing to release it all to get to myself. And I said this year is me first. So listen, I've been a stay-at-home mom since 2007. I've dedicated my life to my kids. They are my life. But even them in that, I said me first.
Absolutely.
I'm willing to give it all away if I have to lose it all. Because for so long, this whole part of my life, I'm 43, all my life up until now, I've been living for other people and to keep their fantasy of me alive and their fantasy alive. I've been living for that. I almost died for that. There were points where when I was, you know, in this abusive relationship, I used to imagine myself throwing myself down the stairs just to get a break.
Right. A lot of women imagine that. Women will even tell me a little hospital stay wouldn't hurt me.
Honey,
and it's just to rest.
Yeah, just to rest. Just to rest. I would make stuff up to have to go to the doctor. I got both surgeries on both my feet because I'm just like, I need
you just need to rest.
You want to rest without feeling guilty, without being, you know, talked about. It's just so much pressure, and it's like we're carrying other people's stuff, pressure, not ours. Like, you know, I never even bought into the idea of marriage. I've never bought into anything that's conforming because I was so just free. My dad he's always been like, listen, forcing me, pushing me, be your best self, your truest self. Who cares about what others say? He told me that for a lifetime. He used to always tell me, Renee, you know, people are going to talk about you regardless, and they do, and they will. And, you know, situations never change, only the people. So I'm telling my story because this is somebody else's story.
Absolutely.
It just continues to recreate in everybody else, and people handle it differently.
The things you're saying are things that I think most women think, but we just don't talk about it.
We don't talk because there's so much shame.
And it's like the idea of like, hey, I'm even going to give up like the kids' image of me.
Right.
That's just like total surrender. It's very necessary. And only then will the relationship smooth out.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Only when I'm being my true self, not what I've seen when I was growing up, because, you know, my relationship with my mom has never been, you know, best because we're so much alike. But when I was growing up, Claire Huxtable was my ideal. She was my role model.
Everyone, right?
Yeah.
Thursday nights. Yes.
Loved her. And I didn't realize how much I had to adapt, but that idea of family successful, I wanted
super
all
mom,
of that. Yes, I wanted all of that, and so I became that. I was that, but I was doing that, and I was ignoring myself that whole time. It's like I created what I believed was acceptable and good, and never consulted myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like now I'm consulting myself. Even, like I said, my dad is going through cancer. And yesterday morning, I was supposed to take him to the doctor, but I woke up, my stomach was really upset. But I was still going to press through because I'm like, no, my dad needs me. And I heard a voice, when will you start sacrificing yourself for other people?
Right.
And I was just having a conversation in my head. No, but, he really needs me. He's sick. Like, I can't. And it's like, but what about you? And it's like, so what is going to happen when you get there? You're going to be overwhelmed. I played this whole thing out in my mind. And finally I called my dad. I said, I can't come. And I went downstairs and Spirit awarded me with this beautiful message on my wall. And it was just so amazing. And I was just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. But something so simple as that.
Right.
Choosing myself. Yeah, I listen. Yeah. But so many times, I want to be, that person who's, like the good person who does everything right. And it's like, take it easy. Give yourself a break. It's not that serious.
It's really not. So many things.
Yeah.
Not that serious.
It's so not that serious. And so forever, I've lived my life, trying to keep the walls from falling down. That's what I've been doing. And now I'm living I'm living freely, whether they're up or down.
Right.
Yeah. So I just, want to tell people, because my story, you could easily look at my story from the outside and think she has it all. She has it, I was a stay-at-home mom, lived in a mansion, never had to work, vacation, shop whenever, had a successful husband. It looked great on the outside.
Right.
But it was hell. And I almost died trying to keep that up.
Wow.
Yeah. Almost died trying to keep it up. Because who was I to complain? How could you, and I used to try to talk to my friends, but they'd look at me like, really? And I mean, I was always overlooked as someone just like, oh, you're so selfish. You're unappreciative. Look at your life. Like, you don't appreciate what you have. And I used to be like, but this isn't it. I mean, but it's not it. It's not. If I'm living like this, shouldn't I match? Bless you. It should be.
It's released.
I should feel.
Okay. This. Well, what you're saying is, okay, I had to stay at home mom. That seems like more work. Like you were working
I was
hard.
24/7. It was a constant job. It was never a break. It was a constant job.
And what are you doing now? Like, I know you've trained yourself, or you've gotten teachers, right? Reiki.
Yes, Reiki. And even the way that came along, how you told me to, invited me to your class.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I really didn't know anything about Reiki.
Right.
I was just like, I don't know why I'll go. And then to like come and have that experience and realize I've been doing Reiki on myself all this time.
You have been. Yeah, totally. You have been.
But so right now I'm building, I'm getting certification so I'm going to be, I was given the vision a year ago as to what I'm going to be doing. And it is to heal the divine feminine. There is a huge, during COVID, it's like looking at videos and everything, it's like I saw women and this ugly masculinity that we had adapted.
Right?
Yeah, the way we talk, the way, all these, the way, the fighting, the loudness, the masculinity that we've taken over. And, we all have masculine and feminine, but there has to be a balance. And because we are out of balance, the earth is out of balance.
Right.
That's why there's so much chaos. So my goal is to start healing the divine feminine from both brokenness, because when you're in brokenness, you can't love, you can't nurture, we can't be our natural feminine selves.
No, you cannot. Right.
So if we're toxic and ugly and everything harsh, and we're giving that out into the world. That's why the Mother Nature's out of balance. And it's so once you heal and restore the divine feminine to herself, her natural self, then that energy, that unresolved energy, can be released back into its rightful owner. And it's like it'll put everything right
They will.
It'll set everything right on earth. It'll be the natural flow.
So much vulnerability to be your divine feminine.
It does. It does. But you have to do it boldly, knowing that you're protected and you're guided. And this is what I learned also in reading Course in Miracles, is that, there's nothing that anyone can do to you to cause you harm, pain, can take from you. There's nothing. And to believe so is wrong-mindedness. It's not right-mindedness, because we're whole already.
Right.
And when we heal, we're being returned to our whole selves.
Right.
We're being returned to our God selves. So to believe that anyone can do anything to you, against you, or take from you is being out of your right mind.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my goal now. And honestly, when it was told to me, I still didn't register this, because this is stuff I've never even thought of.
You're right, though, that being out of believing somebody can take something from you.
Right.
That is out of your right mind.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is, because no one can. So I have to constantly remind myself when I'm about to get angry, and it's like, you're giving them control, because you're believing in the illusion.
Right.
The illusion that something or someone can affect you.
Right.
And that's just an illusion. Yeah. It's not the case. So
I tell women that every week.
Right.
Every week is someone doing something to me, putting something on me.
Right. And remember, I don't want to go into it, but I told you that was one of my fears.
Right.
To coming to terms with, that. So was that, oh gosh, what if somebody, and I believe, I'm not going to go in there right now, but
where can people reach you if they want?
Okay, so I'm getting certification on womb healing, yoni steam, detoxification. We're going to heal the divine feminine,
right,
inside out, from and also Reiki intuitive energy healing. So my website, I'm just getting my website together and putting together my LLC, because I decided to switch the names. So I'm waiting on all of that to happen. But you can find me on Instagram at The Sacred Healer.
The Sacred Healer, and also through me, I'll know where to find you.
Yes.
You can reach out to HYDF.online, harnessing your divine feminine.online, and I can help you. I can match you.
Yes,
to your healer. I'll match you.
Yes, you can match me. But so that's what I'm working on right now. I will start seeing clients in April.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've already started working with people, but I'll go into full mode.
You're teaching at the retreat.
Yes.
In May.
Yes.
You're teaching at the retreat, so I'm excited about that.
I'm excited.
Yes.
And even how you told me about what the theme, the labyrinth theme.
Yeah.
When I immediately hung up with you and thinking about, like, oh my gosh, they have to know this. So it just came. What did I tell you?
Well, it's so funny, because my assistant was like, get Carlas to do that, because she just recently learned about the labyrinth. And I was like, did she? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then you
at
were
the
like,
last retreat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we can get her to do that. And
Right.
I was like, okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
But I think that you're going to go on and help lots of other women sharing your story.
I hope so.
Continue to just talk about things that are not talked about.
Yes. I want to bring to light what's in the darkness.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's what gives it power, right?
Exactly.
If we don't talk about it gives it power.
Exactly.
Right?
And if you don't talk about it, you think you're the only one, and you're not the only one.
Absolutely, you are not, right?
We have to be broken so we can heal to be whole.
Absolutely.
So never, like, I welcome all the darkness and all of anything that's, like, I would consider or perceive painful or bad. I welcome it, because it's for my growth. Good or bad is for my growth. There's no good or bad. It's how you perceive things.
It's ego, right?
Yeah, that's what I want to talk
and
about.
I tell people that every week in classes. There's really no good or bad. It's your ego, like, perceiving it.
It's the ego.
And people look at me and they're like, no.
And the ego perceives out of protection.
Absolutely.
That's it. So it's like, depending on what your ego, is.
Exactly.
So it's like, yeah. But it's helping people to come to terms to these things inside of us, so that we can be masters of ourselves.
Masters of yourselves, right?
Masters of
That's
ourselves.
good. That's excellent. What's
Yeah,
your final words of wisdom for the people listening today?
Final words. Oh, I'll say it again. Situations never change, only the people.
Only the
Everything
people.
that's already been done, everything's been done that you're doing has already been done. Just keep going. Don't give up. You got to keep going. You got to keep going.
You gotta keep
Yeah,
going.
you cannot stop. Not for anything. Not for anyone. This should be your year that's all about you. You should there should be a fire in you of wanting to know yourself, of getting to the best of yourself, that you're willing to sacrifice everything, your life, that life, for this life.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you for having me.
If you want to follow Carlas Renee, you can reach out on Instagram, The Sacred Healer.
Yes, I
And also
Sure.
HYDF.online, and I can help you find her as well. And she's coming to the retreat in May. We still have openings. And thank you for listening today, and go out and give a woman an opportunity today. Bye.
The Harnessing Your Divine Feminine show is produced by 8 Robinsons TV. Subscribe for only $30 per year for access to exclusive and archived content. Visit www.the8ROBINSONS.tv. Thank you for watching.